Neil Young sat in an old wooden chair, surrounded by guitars that had written history. At 84, his voice had grown softer, but his words had become sharper than ever. He looked into the camera and said, "I'm not here to start a fight, but some names I just never respected, not because they were bad, but because they weren't real." The world stopped for a moment. Neil Young, the same man who refused to perform during war, who called out corporate music, who quit bands just to stay true to his soul, was finally naming names. For years, fans had asked him who he admired. He would usually answer with names like Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, or even Kurt Cobain, but this was different. Now he was naming the ones he didn't admire, the ones he never respected, even as the world praised them. And no, it wasn't about jealousy. Neil Young had nothing left to prove. He had shaped rock, folk, country, and had even influenced grunge without trying. He was called the godfather of grunge before Nirvana even released Nevermind. So when he said there were 5 names he never respected, people listened. But before he said the names, Neil gave one warning: respect is not about charts, it's not about fame, it's about heart, and if you never showed heart, I saw right through you. And then, like peeling away layers of history, he began. The first name stunned the room. The superstar who faked the blues. The first one, Neil said, was a showman, big hair, flashy suits, played like thunder, but to me, he faked every note. He didn't say the name directly at first, but fans quickly guessed. It was a legendary blues rock guitarist known for epic solos, high-pitched screams, and million-dollar tour. He once said the blues came from pain, Neil recalled. But I knew him, he never lived that pain. He bought it, wore it, sold it, but he never felt it. Neil had seen this artist backstage. Their hands never had calluses, their eyes never looked tired, there was no soul in their sorrow, only style. This artist had played with some of the greatest names in blues history, but Neil could tell even then he was just borrowing the feeling. "I won't say I hated him," Neil said, "but I never respected him. He was loud, but he wasn't real." The internet exploded with guesses. Was it Eric Clapton? Was it someone even bigger? Names flew across social media like wildfire, but Neil wasn't done. People confuse technical skill with soul, but a million notes don't mean anything if your heart's not in one of them. And just when fans thought it couldn't get more shocking, Neil named the second person. The hitmaker Neil walked out on. "She had hits, big ones, but I couldn't even stay in the room when her song played." Neil shook his head, remembering the moment. "I was at a party in Laurel Canyon," he said. "They played her song 3 times. Everyone was singing along, but I walked out." The second person on Neil's list was a pop-rock legend, known for radio anthems, glossy videos, and chart-topping success. She broke records, she won awards, but Neil wasn't impressed. "She built her songs like products," he said. "Verse, chorus, hook, perfectly packaged, but I never believed a word she sang." Neil explained that he once had a conversation with her at a Grammy event. "She asked me why I always looked so serious," Neil smiled. "I told her because music is serious." She laughed. That was all I needed to know. What hurt Neil the most wasn't her music, it was her attitude. "She told me you could make a lot more money if you smiled more, and I thought that's the problem." To Neil, music wasn't about smiling or marketing or award shows, it was about truth, and to him, she never told the truth through her songs. "I don't care if she sold 50 million albums," Neil said. "I walked out of that party and I never looked back." The comments section lit up. Some praised him, others were furious, but Neil didn't flinch. He leaned forward and said, "Respect isn't about numbers, it's about honesty." And then came the third name, one that truly shocked everyone. The voice that lied. The third one, Neil began slowly, had a voice that could move mountains, but every time he sang, I felt nothing. People gasped. This was someone whose voice had defined a generation. A frontman, a poet, a rock icon, but to Neil, he was something else, a master of disguise. Neil didn't deny the man's talent. In fact, he praised it. He had power, control, and range. He could make you cry, but only because he knew how to, not because he meant it. Neil remembered a particular studio visit in the 70s. The band was recording an emotional ballad. People in the room were crying. The lead singer walked out of the booth, smiling. He said that should win a Grammy, not that felt good, not that meant something, just Grammy. Neil shook his head. That's when I knew it was all an act. He never called him fake, but he never called him honest either, and that for Neil was the deal breaker. He fooled the world, Neil said, but he never fooled me. This singer had led one of the biggest bands of all time. Sold-out tour, diamond albums, fans in every country, but Neil couldn't respect him. You can sing your soul out, Neil said, but if it's not your soul, what's the point? Rumors spread fast. Was it someone from the Queen, the Eagles, Journey? The mystery only added fire to Neil's list, but Neil wasn't done. He took a deep breath. The fourth person wasn't a singer or a guitarist, but someone even more powerful. The producer who ruined rock. He made millions shaping other people's songs, Neil said, but every time he touched a record, I heard less soul. Now Neil was aiming higher, not just at musicians, but at the machine behind them. The fourth name on Neil's list wasn't known to casual fans, but anyone in the music industry knew him well. A legendary producer, a man who crafted the sound of the 80s and 90s, Grammy after Grammy, platinum after platinum. But Neil called him the man who turned music into plastic. He once told me, "Neil, you could be huge if you let me clean you up." I told him, "I'm not dirty." That was the end of that meeting. To Neil, this producer represented everything wrong with modern music: polished, processed, and heartless. He stripped the life out of songs, Neil said, made drums sound like machines, made guitars sound like toys, and worst of all, he made honest musicians doubt themselves. Neil recalled a young artist, a brilliant songwriter, who came to him in tears after working with the man. She said, "He told me to rewrite everything, said my pain was too messy, that no one wants to hear that." Neil never forgot that. He didn't just change songs, he changed people, and I can't respect that. Some people began guessing names, big-time producers behind hit records by Madonna, U2, even Springsteen, but Neil didn't confirm. Because, as he said, it's not about the name, it's about what you stood for. Only one name was left, and Neil saved the most painful one for last. The friend who betrayed him. "I never wanted to say this one," Neil whispered, "but I owe people the truth." The fifth and final name on Neil's list was someone he once loved like a brother. They had written together, toured together, laughed, fought, cried together. Their voices had once blended into something legendary, but it ended badly. "He changed," Neil said. "Fame got to him, he became someone else." There were fights, legal issues, broken friendships, public jabs in interviews, and in the end, silence. We stood on the same stage, but we were miles apart. Neil didn't have to say the name, fans already knew. It was someone from his own past. Many believed it was David Crosby, others guessed Stephen Stills. The heartbreak was real. "He told me I was difficult," Neil said. "He said I was selfish. Maybe I was, but I never faked it, and that's something I can't say for him." Neil admitted that he still missed their early days. "When we sang together, it felt like flying, but somewhere along the way, he landed in a different world." And even after all these years, Neil still carried the wound. He once told me, "You'll regret pushing me away," but I don't. I regret trusting him. Silence hung in the air. Then Neil stood up, picked up an old acoustic guitar, and strummed one lonely chord. "I respect truth, even if it's ugly, even if it hurts, because that's what music is supposed to be." And with that, Neil Young, at 84 years old, closed the chapter. 5 names, 5 stories, all with one lesson: you can be famous but still not be real, and you can be honest even if no one claps.